Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to snag a deal. Now that just doesn't sound right. On a Miami home. Well, I'm going to talk about something like that now. Hey everyone, my name's Jamie Pretzi. I'm a real estate agent in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. I work with my husband, Ogden Pretzi, and our team. Today, I'm going to talk to you about, I did write how to snag a deal on a Miami home, but now that really just sounds silly. But I'm going to talk to you about how to find a home here if you're having a hard time finding what you want online. But first, before I get started, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another update. We do put out new videos every week. Also, use the link in our information box and download our relocation guide. That guide page, I say it all the time, but I'm constantly adding to it. It's like 40 plus pages long, and it has tons of information that I think you'll find really helpful. Buying real estate here is very different than in other parts of the United States, and so we have a lot of little nuances that I like to talk about in that guide page. Okay, let's get started. All right, so you know I'm a big explainer if you've watched any of our videos, and I think it's always important to understand how things work, and that way you become an educated buyer or seller. So I know that most people, when they are thinking about buying real estate, they start online, and they start looking at the listings online, looking at the pricing, setting up property searches, and they just want to kind of get an idea about what they can get for their money, especially if they're relocating to an area that they've never been in before. You know, everyone starts online. So as a local realtor in Miami-Dade and Broward, when I am the seller's agent, I sign an agreement with that seller and I put their property in our MLS database on the listing start date. That database, once I hit send, it puts out a listing, and that listing gets syndicated online through other online portals. So once I hit send on our MLS database, it's going to realtor.com, it's going to Zillow, it's going to all of those other big websites that you are probably very familiar with, and that's where the listing starts. So now let's say you come to me and you're like, okay, Jamie, you know, we're working together. I've been looking online. You're sending me listings. I'm just really not finding what I like in this building or this neighborhood. What's next? So then I go into my database and I see the properties that have recently come off the market. And then I will start calling their agents and I'll say, hey, look, I noticed that you just had an expired listing, you know, in this building or this neighborhood. Is your seller still interested in selling? And we are very successful at doing this. We always connect with the agents where the properties have recently come off the market, because we know that probably the people are a little bit disappointed that the property didn't sell, and the agent obviously, I'm sure, still wants to help the seller sell that property. And so we call these expired listings. So this is one way I think is a very good way for us to find additional properties for you so that you have additional opportunities. And what's even better is it's not on the market anymore. So you are not going to be competing with other people who may already be interested because the property is now an expired listing. So we'll just call them and find out if they still have an interest in selling. And very often they do. Homes that have fallen out of contract. So what does this exactly mean? Let's say I set you up on a property search for a very specific neighborhood. There is a very good chance that some properties are already under contract when I set you up on that search. But maybe as soon as I set you up on that search, the property went under contract the same day, and maybe it's an area and house that you would actually be interested in, but it's not coming up on the initial search because it's already under contract. So whenever you get those listing alerts, make sure you pay attention to them. And also, you know, just always have your eyes open for those properties that come back on the market, because those can be very good opportunities to jump on really fast, especially if a seller has been under contract with a buyer who maybe fell out because they couldn't get approved for financing. Maybe something happened and the building is not eligible for financing, but you can pay cash, or maybe you have a different financing product. That happens too. We can obviously talk about that in detail. Maybe something came up on the inspection and the buyers got spooked. I don't know. But houses that fall out of contract and come back on the market, and if you act fast enough, those can be great opportunities, because trust me, the sellers are already annoyed that they had to put the property back on the market and start this process all over again. So if you come in as a shiny new buyer with a great offer and one that makes sense to them, you may be able to snag, I said it again, that Miami house. Off-market properties. Very often people assume that just because a property is not listed on the MLS, that the sellers are not interested in selling it. And this is just really not true. Sometimes properties are just sitting there empty and the sellers may want to sell it, but they just haven't really gotten around to hiring an agent. Maybe it was, again, listed in the past and expired. Maybe it's been off the market for a while. But I can tell you that we have been very successful in finding off-market properties for some of our buyers when we couldn't find anything available listed at the moment. So, we just do the old-fashioned thing of picking up the phone, calling agents in that neighborhood, calling through old listings, and really just, like I like to say, we start digging and really get into work and try to find these opportunities for our buyers. So off-market properties can be great opportunities, and they're even better because you don't have other buyers who are also competing against you. So it's usually a little bit more relaxed process, and sometimes it can be a very good opportunity, one that you may not even been aware of. So another type of property that you may want to pay attention to is homes that have a very long days on market. Now, very often people will say to me, "What's wrong with this property? It's been sitting on the market forever. Something must be wrong." But honestly, it's really not always the case. Sometimes sellers, they just list the property and unfortunately they don't take the advice of their agents and they overprice it and the home sits. Sometimes people make it hard to show. Sometimes tenants make it hard to show. Sometimes the photos are horrible and no one's coming to see the property because they can't get a vision and people just don't like to waste time. That brings me to another thing. Places that have bad photos, if you can somehow find a way to envision what that property may look like without all of the bad photos, maybe it's worth taking a look at those types of properties. Homes with longer days on market, I know a lot of people say something's wrong with that property, I'm not going to see it, but sometimes those are gold mines and those are very good opportunities in a way to snag a property because maybe it just hasn't had the correct exposure, the correct marketing, the correct advice around pricing, and maybe it's sitting on the market, but if it's still listed, trust me, I have a feeling people may want to sell that property. So definitely take a look at those types of properties because that may be a good opportunity and you might walk in at the right time. All right, so I think these are some good ideas. These are some things that sometimes we have to do for our buyers. Sometimes it just requires some extra work. It's not always so easy just finding these properties online. Sometimes we have to do a lot of little digging, like I say, investigative work, a lot of extra research, and that's totally fine. That's part of our job, and we are happy to do that. We do it very often for many of our buyers. Sometimes our buyers are only interested in maybe 3 streets, and that requires a lot of digging. Alrighty, I hope that this helped answer your questions about how to snag a deal on a Miami home. There are other ways of finding great properties in our area other than just looking online. If you have more questions about buying real estate in Miami-Dade or Broward counties, we're always here to be a resource for you. My name is Jamie Pretzi. This is my husband, Ogden Pretzi. Don't forget to download our free relocation guide, and we will see you soon.